Yo, everybody, Norb, Silver Aged, Daredevil, Born Again, season finale. My God, what shocking betrayals and returns, and maybe shocking returns. Tabitha once again says, hey, please remember, subscribe to us, please. We got to grow this channel. I need better treats again. So, hey, anyway, you know, I was totally surprised, totally shocked by one or two return / betrayal. But overall was totally surprised. No, I don't think, were you guys surprised? No. And obviously you had to see season finale. Otherwise, please stop watching and return after you've watched. All the major players and more, obviously. Daredevil, Kingpin, Vanessa, Heather, Karen Page. Yes, Karen Page. Frank Castle. We have, our mostly esteemed attorneys. No Foggy. So there's no surprise, no shocking major earthquake there. And some of the betrayals just kind of blew my mind. This episode, quality-wise, not as good as episode 8. Not as good as the first episode. Really good, but would I give this 2 thumbs up? Yeah, a little bit like this. Would I give it 5-star? No. Would I give it like a 4.2 maybe? Maybe 4.0 maybe out of 5. Anyway, the episode opens up, bullseye. We got background, those who didn't watch Daredevil on Netflix. He basically Kingpin had broke his back, and he was sitting in a mental hospital after getting his back repaired somehow or another. And Vanessa, who I declared as a real villain in a prior video I have out there. Please watch that as to what connect that. The real villain of the series. And I still kind of will maintain that after seeing this today, because she basically was the catalyst that basically caused everything to happen here, because Daredevil, this to occur. And basically we find out that because at the end of Daredevil at Netflix, the FBI agent was framed for corruption, and Kingpin got out of it. And so she used that card to get Bullseye out, even though he's told druggy, and gave him a couple moments to make a decision. And he gets out there, and she tells him, you got to kill this informant and Foggy Nelson. And a couple days later, he does that. And obviously, we've known what's happened since episode 1 through 8 now. So that says, and she goes, trust me. And of course, I think that's when anyone tells you, trust me, red flag should always go up. And then she goes, you're free. And then we flash forward again to the scene where we saw Bullseye shooting Kingpin. Now, I think in theory, that was not meant to shoot Vanessa. I think it was really meant to shoot Kingpin for breaking his back and causing him to be in the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when Matt's in the hospital bed, true feelings come out. Shock again. Here's some shocking things. His love for Karen comes out. And Heather's sitting in there, and his partner, Kirsten, is sitting in the hospital bed. Not quite sure why Kirsten was there, but anyway. And the first words basically out of his mouth are Karen. And you can see Heather kind of be crushed by that. So there's conversations that go on, etc. So that lays a little more groundwork for later on. So Heather obviously is frustrated. And so then this leads to conversation about why did this happen? Why did Vanessa shoot this? And Kirsten shares some additional information that leads to some thoughts about things, but we don't say anything more. But then we see a scene where Vanessa and Kingpin are together, and Kingpin admits that he knew that Vanessa orchestrated the death of Foggy by hiring Bullseye. And then he talks about Red Hook. And the real reason he wants to do Red Hook comes out then that he goes to her, you funnel millions through it. And now we can, as my position, we can funnel billions through it. And of course, later on, we find out that this is a free port and not under jurisdiction of the United States government or the state of New York, sort of like some of the Indian territories we have spread throughout the country. They operate as a separate entity. And so he sees it as potential opportunity, but doesn't really talk about that at this point in time. So then Kingpin gets his team together. He wants to get his vigilante task force out there going active and declare martial law. And Sheila kind of talks him out in the staff meeting, kind of saying, well, you can't just do it for yourself. You have to have a public issue. And we have a little bit further. Kingpin embraces that and basically causes a power outage that causes looting and vandalism, which I'm sure he probably seeded some of that. And then the task force framed as many people as they could as being vigilantes for their additional justification. So the city of New York was under rampage. And then eventually, as you know, because you watched this, Kingpin leveraged that to get his task force out there and declare martial law and put a curfew in place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then he also, right before that, he says, Buck, you need to go take care of Matt. Matt's going to be more valuable to us as a dead hero than a dead vigilante. And Buck doesn't say anything, but Buck tries to kill him at the hospital. But Matt's lucid enough to hear the steps of him coming and runs out of the room during the power outage when the power outage hits. So he had a lot of interesting interplay there. And so then Matt goes to his apartment, somehow makes it his apartment, and even though he's wounded still, left shoulder, and he's sitting there, and Frank Castle shows up, and he goes, why are you here? And he goes, well, someone asked me to look out for you. And he went, comment who that is. And then, we didn't see this anywhere happening, but we could sense it. And we see it through trailers. The Goon Squad tries to take out Matt now. But then I don't think they know he's Daredevil yet. And so they end up fighting both of these guys. And Frank basically does his thing. And Frank takes a lot of cops out violently and permanently. So they're out, they're killed. But then also we do get some closure on who killed the White Tiger, because we end up seeing who that is, and Matt had a chance to kill him, and Frank goes, go do it, and he goes, no, and all of a sudden someone throws a grenade in, and everything gets blown to hell, and meanwhile Daredevil grabs Castle and flies out the window, bounces with his stuff and bounces off a car, saves him, and walking away, and another car comes on, and here's one of our first shocking returns. Karen Page. Oop, I'd said that earlier, but you already knew that. And here's the thing I don't quite understand. Karen said she heard that Bullseye was released, and she called out to Frank, and she immediately got on a plane to come from San Francisco. She doesn't say San Francisco, but we know she was in San Francisco. How the hell did she get there that quick? Because Bullseye escaped. We didn't find out earlier to that night, the night before. How did she get there so fast? How'd she know this was going to be a problem? How'd she get there? Et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so anyway, then Karen's there. They talk, all of them talk. There's a little love triangle thing that's kind of there because Karen did have interest in Punisher, but we know her real love is actually Matt. So that moves forward. And they have a conversation, and it leads them to a locker of their old firm, and they find the paperwork that Foggy was going to file because a motion to not to proceed anymore, but that motion was going to disclose that Red Hook, where Kingpin wants to do development, is actually a Freeport, and all of a sudden they understand what really is happening. And so then they try to decide to go after go to Red Hook. They're going to carry on their own, and then Frank gets some second thoughts and decides to go after him. He actually goes there too. And Castle gets beat up by the goon squads that are there. But meanwhile, we saw another thing that was occurring in the background. Another shocking betrayal. Sheila, who we thought was one of the things of sanity was trying to keep a little bit of control over Kingpin. Well, no, she actually ratted on the commissioner who planned to go to the AG in New York, state of New York. And so that caused him to be taken to a site where Kingpin gathers some young police officers who are loyal to him. And meanwhile, he talks to Commissioner Gallo, and sadly, grotesquely, his skull gets crushed by Kingpin, and Kingpin is now fully back as Kingpin / mayor. And then he makes his martial law announcement a little bit later, saying, "I never forget, I love New York." And so that keeps going on. We have stuff like that. And then we just progress through a lot of different things. And, then we get, besides another betrayal that occurs, after this martial law stuff happens, Heather, because I don't want to say she's a childhood lover, but she I think mentally she's been broken. And we've seen it slowly happening over this episode. Some people thought she was a kind of a plant from Fisk, but Fisk calls her to the office and offers her to make her commissioner of mental health services for New York City, and she accepts. And you obviously at that point you can tell that she doesn't give a damn or care about anything but Matt thinks about any of this stuff, because Matt's now hasn't been disclosed. Another thing that happens when Frank gets beat up by the goon squad at Red Hook, and they basically tell him they worship him kind of like a god. They want him to join his services, and obviously he doesn't. There's heroes. They're heroes to both sides for strange reasons, but Frank goes basically F you guys. So we got that. And Daredevil was going to try to go on the boats and attack the major ship that's there with the goon squad. And Karen basically said, "You can't do that. You'll die. I don't want you dying. You're too important to me," etc., etc. Love shows up, grows strong, and all of a sudden that lights the fire to bring him back 100% as Daredevil and put him into a leadership role. And he realizes that he can't do it by himself, and he needs to have a team. And so we fast forward to Josie's bar. And he gathers some of his trusted friends, a couple policemen, and said, "We're going to take the city back." And opportunity lost. Opportunity lost. You would think maybe they're going to call out Spider-Man. Maybe they're going to call out to some others. Maybe to the Swordsman. Of course, he doesn't know what happened to the Swordsman. Yet we find that out in a few moments. You think they're going to call out to Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, I can't remember the guy, Luke, the guy with the Kung Fu stuff. You think some of those people would have been called on, or some of the other heroes that live in New York. Hawkeye. Both Hawkeyes, actually. You would hope for some cameos of that. So that kind of, they scan the room, and that's it. Then we get, we go back to the Red Hook area, back into the place where we had the death of Adam, the lover, where that was shot by, oh, by the way, there is Natasha, the executive producer, who only shows up when she needs to. Dad, you're talking too long. So anyway, so basically, we were at that point, and that thing was a gap, but we did shift walking down this hallway, and all of a sudden you saw all the socialites who were saying that we're not going to support directly. We're all caged in black ties, etc. So you can tell this is probably still the same day, same 24-hour period. So a lot of shit happens in 24 hours, but I just don't know how everyone got together so quick and how everything happened, how they were able to get all these guys. And one of the people that was caged was Swordsman, Jack. I'm hoping Jack comes back. So anyway, I'm hoping they get them out, and I think the way that's going to happen, because we saw also caged was Frank Castle. Oh, then we had a post-credit scene. And Frank, being creative, finds a way to entice one of his captors to come over, and he grabs him, he shakes his hand, grabs him, breaks his arm, and gets the keys, and now we're going forward to next season. I think this was great? Yeah, some of it was predictable. Some of the betrayals, though, did totally catch me off guard. Some of the Return of the Heroes, there were some heroes I wanted to see, we didn't see. Maybe we're going to see them in the first season next year. I know right now they showed some photos from the sets in London. So, hey, everybody, please like, subscribe. We're young. We're trying to grow. We're trying to resonate with you. Please give us your comments. Thank you. Have a great day.